What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Paranormal Council, where you are going to get four unique perspectives on your favorite paranormal topics or topics you may not even have heard about. But welcome to the show. We are on Paraflix and YouTube. If you don't have Paraflix, it is all about paranormal. You need to go get it. We have a code, Paranormal Council 25. If you want to get your annual subscription to Paraflix, guys, go check that out because right now we are number one in the hot titles. That's right. We're blowing it up. We're blazing it up on Paraflix right now. So, guys, get in there as soon as possible. Hello. Look at all the regulars popping in already and saying hi. God, you guys are amazing. Yes, you guys are awesome. It's good to see everybody. So tonight, what do we have in store for you? Well, we are going to be talking about some paranormal definitions. We touched on stuff kind of involved with paranormal investigating last episode. This time, we're going to get into more of like the spiritual side of psychics and mediums, and like what's the difference between a clairvoyant and a precog or something like that. Maybe you're wondering like, hey, how do I label myself? All these terms are a little confusing. We're going to try to dial those in just a little bit more for you. So pretty much everything tonight's going to be about spiritual definitions. So without further ado, let's get started with our esteemed council and let's jump right into it. So folks, let's start out with the first and most obvious thing is let's start with the terms of psychic, medium, a sensitive empath, anything you guys want to kind of talk about on some of these major terms. But so what's a psychic? How can we explain that to people?
Jan, you want to take it on off or somebody?
I was gonna say I can give some background on this one because as somebody who's had abilities my whole life, trying to figure out how to label myself because everybody's like, oh well, do you understand this? Do you get information? And like you're trying to figure out, well, am I an empath? Am I an intuitive? Am I precog? Am I a psychic? Am I a medium? Like how do I fit? Right? Where do I fit in this puzzle? And for me, it was a long journey trying to figure that out because of all the different things that I can do. And so I think it's really important we do talk about it. And I think there's very big differences between them, but a lot of people use them interchangeably a lot. And it can be very confusing, not only for team members on teams, but for in residential cases. And just like when you go to public investigations and things as well. I don't know the technical definitions of a lot of things because frankly I don't care. It fits me and that's what works, right? But the definitions, empath. A lot of people will say that an empath is somebody who feels other people's feelings, right? And in paranormal that would typically mean like a spirit's feelings, or some equate it to an energy in a room. I would say that is all true to a certain level, but I think there's a difference between like intuitive and empath. And I'm going to let Stacy, I know he knows a lot more about the technicalities of the labels than I do, and Sean weigh in on it. I myself identify it as a lot of different things depending on how it applies and where it's relevant. But go ahead, Stacy. Tell us what you think.
Well, I personally, I despise the word psychic because it has been so abused, with popular culture. But essentially, everyone is born psychic. We learn through conditioning not to be. Children are very not only intuitive, but they are. It would blow the doors off of any self-proclaimed psychic that gets on TV and starts, talking about, your life and your future and all of these sorts of things. Children are very, very sensitive. Only through time and right around the age of puberty do children stop being psychic, so-called. But the terms that we're going to get into are derivatives of that. Some people are more sensitive, or actually, I should let me say more sensitive. They pay attention to the information that they get in a particular way, and it all comes down to personality traits. The FBI has a psychological profile of what kind of person you are, what kind of personality you have, based off of a lot of different tests. But it essentially comes down to what is your most dominant sense trait. Are you visual? Are you auditory? Are you kinetic, which is the hunger, the taste? Are you more olfactal, or are you just you know more sensitive to your surroundings? Like you can feel when somebody's staring at you, behind you. You can feel their eyes in the back of your head, kind of stuff. Um, Everybody's got a certain level of sensitivity that is around their own personality. Most people, 80% of the population, is visual. So when they get psychic information, it is usually through that factor. Some people are auditory. Musicians are, they wouldn't look at a Picasso and know what the hell's going on, but they could name every single note in, Dark Side of the Moon. They could tell you what it is, what chords, all of those sorts of things, because they can just hear it. And that level of attention and acuity can carry forward in psychic abilities to where you hear voices that are not only internal voices of your own, but voices that are not of your own. And that kind of psychic mediumship, and we'll get into that here shortly too, comes through what your brain is actually accused or acute to paying attention to. And that's really what it all comes down to. The human brain receives 250 gigs worth of information every single second, but can only process around 64K. So the vast majority of the information that you receive coming from things that you don't even imagine are essentially being blocked or dumped immediately the moment they come in as being non-important, non-consequential, because it takes so much effort to process just the normal stuff and what is going on around you in the world. So that's what essentially psychics are able to pay attention to, subtle information that is coming in that they're used to confirming is actually true. And that's really what it all comes down to.
Yeah, and I think to kind of sum up what Stacy's saying is that, really psychic is also a broad term, right? So like when you say that a house is haunted, right, you could say that a person has psychic abilities, but what are those psychic abilities? That's what we're going to break down even more as we get into that, because essentially, if you're just a psychic, you're really just a person that can perceive information from like beyond normal senses, right? That's all that really is. So it's very generic. But like as Stacy was talking about, sometimes it's hearing, sight, smell, the different clairs, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit as well. And I want to touch on what Jen was saying about empath. And she's right. There is, when you are sensitive to the emotions and feelings of other people, sometimes living or dead, you are empathic. I think there is a point, and I think Jen was talking about this. I don't know if it was off or you were just talking about it too. But so I don't want to steal your thunder. You might have been talking about off camera, but there is a certain level at which, sometimes people are like, hey, I'm an empath, but they're really just maybe a little sensitive. Okay. Maybe, we all have a degree of intuition, right? Meaning that we all have that gut feeling. That's the best way to describe intuition, is that gut feeling that we get like, oh man, I think something's about to happen. Or you walk into a scary place and you're like, oh, I don't like this or whatever. Those are like gut feelings, like that intuition. So sometimes people get a feeling about something. They're reading the room, and like so they feel like they're empathic when in fact they're just a little sensitive. So just keep that in mind. A lot of people seem to say they're an empath, and they really are not per se. They're just a little more sensitive than everybody else.
Well, I will
So
say too, like there's different stages in development, right? So that could be that they are an empath and it's at a new beginning stage. It might be an early development stage. It doesn't mean they're not an empath. It just means that they're still growing and learning, right?
empath and
Um,
training.
right. Well, we're all in training when it comes to spiritual things. We always will be.
Mhm.
Right. Well, and again, that's kind of something where, if you're in training, then don't call yourself the full deal until you have developed it a little more. I guess that would be the more proper way of saying. But in any case, like I said, if you, I think defining these terms. So I want to kind of make one thing clear too, and I'll kind of hand it off to somebody as well. We can kind of get into some the clairvoyance or medium type stuff. But keep in mind that a lot of the terms we're going to discuss tonight, you don't have to be in one category. Okay. So you may have empathic abilities. You may be, developing your intuition or sensitive or sensitivity. You may have different types of clairvoyancies. Um, you can have these different things, okay, and fall under psychic abilities. Okay, so you can have multiple things. Okay, it's just a matter of sometimes when you want to communicate those things, especially when you're new and you want to have a mentor. Sometimes, if you know these terms, it's easier for you to say, "Well, hey, I feel like I'm clear cognizance or something," and so people would want to know, like, oh, okay, well, that means you're receiving sudden knowledge type stuff, um, but being able to relay those different aspects of your abilities helps to communicate to your mentors and stuff too. So that's why we're trying to help you define some of these individual characteristics. I just wanted to make sure you guys understood that you don't have to be stuck in like just one category. Like, well, I don't know what to be. Like, I don't like. I kind of have a little bit of both. Well, yeah, you can. So, who wants to talk about
Yeah, so I was saying it's derivative. It's derivative. I mean, all mediums are psychics, but not all psychics are mediums. It's derivative of the word psychic. It's the overall umbrella that you were talking about. And I want to push back a little bit on the whole idea of not calling yourself something. Psychologically speaking, you won't ever actually acquire that ability unless you actually start to own it. Stephen King refused to call himself a writer until his third book was published. He was an author, he was a teacher of English, but he refused to call himself a writer until his third book was published, and his wife turned around and basically kicked him in the butt and said, "Just own it," And at that point, he's published like a madman. But it really didn't start happening until he owned the title writer. And that being the case, if you are an empath, you know it, but you can't really prove it yet, that's fine. Just don't go bragging about it until you can actually, you know, produce the goods. But owning it is part of the psychological process.
Yeah,
Sure,
well,
I agree.
Josh says it all the time that everybody should have a mentor. We all have mentors, right? We all have other people that we reach out to and try to learn from and continue to grow with. And that's, a mentor is really good in helping out, getting you to understand what you are capable of and how you're capable of doing it, what you're not quite ready to do yet. And they can really help you understand where you're at in your journey and, help kind of help you pick a title if you have to have one, which in this community, it seems like we have to, right? To be understood. It's not, like if you walk into a team and you're the tech guy, everybody knows what that means. But if you walk into the team and you're an empath, they're like, oh, well, what do you do? And then you have to like explain it. Or if you're a medium, well, everybody assumes that mediums can't remote view, or mediums can't, or they're not precogs, but somehow they're a medium. And they are very separate things, but you can do them together
Mhm.
with training. right? So, like Josh always touts, get a mentor. They're the best. And the more you can define what you do, the better chance you have of finding a mentor that can actually help you in the areas specifically that you want to grow in. Just my thought.
Yeah, for sure. I think we should also kind of clarify what a medium is for people since we're talking about it. From my understanding, a medium is one that more gets their information through the dead, through spirit.
Well, Sean,
Typically,
I want to hear Sean's take on this because Sean has a different terminology and a different reason background. So I want to hear Sean's thoughts.
I,
Well,
I would I would first to kind of agree with the idea of what you said about medium and empaths, and I would kind of start by saying that in the Christian tradition, um, I would also agree that the Bible kind of teaches that there's I believe the Bible teaches that some people are born with the ability to see into the spiritual realm, into the spiritual behind the veil, so to speak, and they're called seers in the Bible. If you kind of like what we said a while ago about the mediums, not every prophet is a seer, but most all seers are a prophet, and the idea of the seer is to be able to see into that spiritual realm. And yet there's different seers. And so I want to back up and kind of say it this way too. Um, I'm not a seer. I don't claim to have the ability to see into the spiritual realm. However, since I've been doing this so long, I know what to look for. I know how I've kind of grown into that ability to see. I may not be able to see the spirits exactly, but I know something's here. I know the signs. A seer actually sees the spirits or can see the spirit, or some don't see the spirit, kind of like what Stacy was saying a while ago. There's different aspects of this. Some only hear the voice, some only see the apparitions, some see both. Um, some will see auras, some will see, and the auras are just a glow around the person. But in the Bible, they see it as that. Now, let me kind of say it this way: the biblical seers are not talking and having conversations to gain information in the Bible from the spiritual world. They're seeing the actions and they are warning the human beings and warning and looking at what's happening. And there's several instances like Elijah turning to the prophet and saying, "Hey," or to the one he's mentoring, "Don't fear. I want you to see the army that's out here." And he prays, and God shows the guy the army. So I'll just kind of wrap it up by just saying, um, one of the things I try to do when I'm in the training with someone teaching them what I do is I make sure that they understand that not all of this stuff is demonic, or that some people have that ability, and we need to be able to understand what's happening with them and talk with them and mentor them as well. And so that's kind of where I would leave it right there.
yeah, I mean that makes sense. I personally think that if you have the ability to see and you're calling yourself a seer, I think it's pretty much one and the same as a medium. I think that for me, the only difference is with a seer is that it's how they carry themselves and how they use the information. So that would probably be the only distinction, in my opinion. I think if it's not like there's a filter and they're seeing like only this specific stuff. They probably see all the stuff. It's just how they use it, or again, they choose not to use that information to gain benefit from the dead. You see what I'm saying? So that's kind of how I distinguish between a seer and a medium, so to speak.
well, technically speaking, a medium is a very boring term. Uh, media is where we get. It's the same thing, whether it be a newspaper, a radio, YouTube. It's that's a media, and a person is assumes that responsibility. A good one will give you only the information that they get. They won't interpret, they won't extrapolate, they won't embellish. They will just give you, just like a newspaper will show you what's printed on the page. The newspaper doesn't all of a sudden rewrite itself to fit the narrative, even though that's what the journalists do anyway. The newspaper is the medium, not the journalist. The idea of a person being a medium is just a go-between, the person who is the interpreter of the information to a certain degree, and even that is up to the skill level of the particular medium, because some of them use a lot of code that they've developed over their lives to have certain symbolisms mean certain things, and it only works for them. Uh, it's not transferable. They couldn't teach someone else to use their symbolism because it is their symbolism, and the information they get is, unique to them in that way. So it really is. It's an art, but also it's a skill, and the whole idea is to be as truthful as possible on the information that you're getting, and then transmitting it to the people who need it. Um, that's pretty much the job description.
I would
Okay.
agree with that. I feel like, being a medium, my job is to relay messages, and it's as I receive them, not as I'd like them to be. And I don't, it's difficult at times because sometimes what you're saying, it evokes huge emotions in people. And sometimes it's not always, the happiest memories or the person that they are hoping to connect with or what they want to hear, and so that can make it very difficult. And you were talking about the symbolism that a lot of mediums use, and you're right, it works for certain people, but it's not how everybody should read. And for me, like, I grew up watching a lot of them, right? Your Sylvia Brown and things like that. And for me, I've never received information in that format. Like, I thought, oh, well, that would be such a good cheater hack to have. But there's also, it allows a lot more interpretation. So, like, when I receive information, it's either audible or like there is a picture, a solid picture that you explain to somebody, and it's not just an item, right? And a lot of times I'll get a picture with an audible explanation. Like, I'm looking at a living room and there's roses in a vase on the counter, and then I'll hear anniversary or something like that. And so then I can tell whoever I'm reading for, there's a vase with roses on a counter and I heard anniversary. What does that mean to you? Or does that resonate with you? For a yes,
Mhm.
no response. But I would never see a rose and equate that with love. But it works for a lot of people. Just, that's not how I work. And I think that's frustrating sometimes for people who are trying to learn their abilities because they see how other people do it and think that they have to do it like the same way. Like, there's a methodology that you have to do it the same way. And that's just simply not how it works. It's
Right.
whatever works for you, and you train yourself based on what works for you, right? There's no gatekeeping in how to do these things.
Well, and
There's
that's the thing.
multiple.
Well, yeah, and I think that's like when we talk about, like, whether it's audio, visual, smell, or whatever. There's a list of things out there, and it just depends on your combination.
Mhm.
And so when there's a list of abilities out there and these multiple combinations, there's several hundred possibilities, right?
Right.
So customization to your abilities. So that's why you also have to communicate those to your mentor, but also learn to understand yourself, I think. Um, I do want to touch on the different clairs here in a second. I want to go back just a little bit to what Sean was talking about, Jen, and all of you guys. And that is the and also too, real quick, guys, in the chat, if you need to pop in a question, if you have a definition, something you're just like, or if you're still not clear on something, ask. All right, now's your chance to ask. throughout the show. So don't be embarrassed. Ask those questions. Okay, but so Sean was talking, and this is important too. When you constantly work in this field, okay, when you're out there enough, you're going to develop your sensitivities. You're going to develop your intuition, whether you really want to or not, because as humans, we love pattern recognitions, right? We don't like change. So we try to find patterns and we try to get comfortable in those patterns. We don't like change. But you start to pick up on those things. And so, like, that's why even Sean, over time, he's developing his intuition, so he is able to walk in rooms. And along with that comes sometimes the audio, or sometimes maybe visuals, or who knows how his body is going to start perceiving that information. But we all do. And then my advice to a lot of people as well is you can actually take it a step further and start to train that as you go to these places through association. Once you get done with an investigation, you say, you know what, I felt a lot of tingling when this happened. I got the chills in certain places of my body when this particular moment happened and this unexplained event happened, or whatever. These things you can start to associate. So now when I go to a situation and I walk into an investigation, my body's already telling me different things. I'm like, okay, there's something here. There's something negative here. I'm receiving information that I've been able to link with all the hundreds of cases I've done in the past, that same pattern. And now it's more of an automated response as well. So it's kind of nice, where you don't have to necessarily think too hard on it anymore. As you get as you do it.
I'll say a real quick thing. I can back that up. I'm not going to say what they are, but I have certain things that happens to me that I know when these certain things are happening to me physically and also emotionally, that there's something here I need to deal with. And sometimes it's not always bad. I mean, sometimes it could be the good thing too, but there's certain things that I've noticed over the years that when this certain thing happens with me, I've got to be on my toes, or I need to back off on something. And so that's very true.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying. Like, it's really important that I just wanted to touch on that, because it really does matter that people get out there in the field and to start to train that senses and stuff. But I know, Jen, you got something you want to pump in and say.
Yeah, well, and I was gonna say it's a great example. Josh and I are actually working. I won't say his name, but there's a local paranormal investigator here that we've been working with quite a bit, and we've talked about it in the past in our episodes about psychology and things like that, about perception, right? And things don't exist until your perception becomes aware of them, and now all of a sudden you're aware that it's there, it exists. So this investigator that we're working with has a long history of being a staunch skeptic. Did not believe, was debunking everything. He was very, very vocal about it. Sometimes to his own detriment. Love you. But now that he's kind of come to experience enough personally, right? He's no longer a skeptic, which changes the whole way he investigates. But as he became aware that these things do actually exist, not only did it change his whole approach and his perception, but now those abilities are starting to kick in. He's experiencing so much more, and he's like, what do I do with this? Where did this come from? I could never do this before. What does this mean? Where do I go from here? And so, like, I'm blessed to be able to help him on that journey. I know Josh is too, and kind of understanding what a lot of paranormal investigators go through when you do get exposed to these types of things so much. And what does that mean? And how do you develop it in a safe way, right? That works for you individually. So I think it's kind of cool, because we do actually have that we're working with right now, and that fits exactly what you were saying.
Oh, yeah.
It's awareness. What I was saying before, being able to pay attention to what's actually coming in. I mean, most people walk around their lives in the world like they're walking down Skid Row, the most dangerous street in the world, with earbuds in, looking at their phone, looking down, just kind of like walking down the street, and are completely shocked when they get mugged. It's that kind of thing where awareness, situational awareness, allows you to be able to predict or at least anticipate certain things that are going to take place. That's really all we're talking about is the brain being able to pay attention. And that's what makes things sensitive, makes you sensitive, is you're actually now seeing things that you didn't pay attention to before. And your brain has trained itself to do so. It's really what it comes down to.
I want to get into the clairs, and a lot of people are familiar. They hear a lot of like clairvoyant, right? And so there is at least 6 clairs, and I want to cover those. I'm going to read them off because I have them wrote down, and I never use the most of the actual terms, but they are good for you guys to know because they are technically right. So a clairvoyance or clairvoyance. You could say clairvoyant if you really almost want to make it a generic term, if you sense any of the clairvoyancies. But anyways, a clairvoyance experience is clear seeing. Basically, this is when you receive visual information. Okay, clairaudience is going to be hearing. Okay, this is when you get the audio. Right, this is hearing. Clairsentience is when you get feelings through like physical or emotional sensations. Um, I'll go back to that one too. Claircognizance, of course, is when you all of a sudden get knowledge, right? So that's usually when you get like your precog stuff, things like that. So, but your claircognizance, we can get into that too. Uh, and I don't even know if I'm going to pronounce this one right, but I think it's clairalienance, right? This is the smelling. I don't know. I don't know. That's weird. Receiving information, psychic information through smell. I guess that's handy if you want to know if a ghost farted. Clairgustance is tasting. Clairgustance, receiving through taste. All right. So there's your different clairs. I do want to talk to clairsentience a little because, for example, one day I was part of this group. It was we were online like this. We had probably 6 of us on cameras, and it was on Discord. And it was some buddies of mine. We were doing this league thing, this online league, and so of course they're always fascinated. Like afterwards, we're hanging out. They wanted to talk about paranormal, so I did a dowsing rod session while on there, and ended up getting one of the guys' deceased wife's or wife. Um, but what was crazy is, well, first, actually, we didn't get her on the line. I just say on the line like it's like a phone call, but we didn't get her on the line right away. But eventually, one of his other best friends that passed away actually got his wife to come and talk. It was crazy how this all works. I don't know. I mean, I'm just the messenger, man. So, but during that session, like, he's asking some questions. I'm doing the session, and I'm just like, I mean, I'm streaming tears. I am like almost full on bawling at this point. I'm like, what the hell? And and I was feeling overwhelmed with happy emotions, joy that they got to connect, that she was happy to get a message to her husband, and the feelings, the emotional sensations were coming through me in that session. I was like, what the hell? I mean, and I'm like just sitting there like, I have no connection to these people. I mean, I recognize the moment, but it was just like, oh, so that was one of the heaviest examples I think I felt of that kind of clairsentience.
I don't know, I think clairsentience can come across in a lot of different ways as well. Um, just different. Um, a lot of times you might feel you can feel not only their emotions, but like you feel like you were touched, even though you know they're not in the room, right? When you're a medium, like I am, there'll be things where I'll feel like I'll get like two pats on the shoulder, but they're not like touching me. And when you do it enough, you can figure out the difference, right? But to me, that was a hey, why are they patting me on the shoulder 3 times? And that's what they only did to family or friends, right? So it's evidentiary reading for people, right? There are other times too when you're getting information and you're using those abilities, but you're also a clairsentient. Like I've been gotten information about a fight that was going on or a fight that had happened in the past, and I felt myself taking the hits physically. And so there was that, but you can feel the emotions, the pain, the sadness, the happiness, the joy, the all the things Josh was just talking about too, right? Or the grief. If it's the loss of like a child or a spouse, you can feel that as well. Um, so I think there's different parts to that, and some people only feel the emotion part. Some people can feel the physical part as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I wanted to add too that the clairvoyancy categories and the clairvoyant categories, you can receive multiple information. So you don't have to be like, oh, I had a clairaudience, I had a clairsentience. Like you don't have to specifically just be like, hey, I had this clairvoyant message, and it could be a picture associated with audio, smells, all of it. It could be all or just a few things or just the picture, So just keep that in mind that, again, we're just specifically talking about there is an actual term for each sense of things because some people may only have one thing. Maybe they only get psychic smells or something, right? But you can receive things in multiple messages. And the other thing I wanted to add too is like it's hard sometimes. I think Stacy said it earlier where the word psychic got bastardized and like this in the culture. So there's not a lot of people that want to be like, because when you look at like, even if you're not this psychic sitting down doing readings for people and all this other crap, right? If you do have any of these sensitivities, empath abilities, all of this stuff, the only way, the true way to sum it up is say, well, I actually do have some psychic abilities. But
Yeah,
nobody wants to say that because it sounds cheesy then.
the Claire categories that you just named, they're really old terms. They were really popularized during the early 1900s, the end of the 19th century, when the parlor mediums and the parlor seances were going on, table tipping, things of that kind. People needed to have definitions of what was going on and what people were actually experiencing, so they essentially created those terms back then. They're old, and a lot of people don't even use them. Psychics don't even use them anymore. Even the mediums themselves won't even use the word medium. They like to say, I'm a channeler. I channel things. I channel the information. I channel this. I channel that. I channel other people. Different things like that. They don't even like the word medium anymore because it got a bad rap, same way psychic did. Um, a lot of the stage magicians, like the Amazing Randy or even Harry Houdini, go out of their way to try to debunk and humiliate mediums by fraudulently doing the same thing they're doing and then saying, see, I can fake it, so they're faking it. It's not the same thing. Just because you're able to commit fraud doesn't mean that everybody else is committing fraud too. And that's the whole gist behind the stage magicians who are doing this sort of thing. So a lot of mediums don't even use the word medium anymore because it just invokes that kind of bad press. So they're channelers now.
Well, and the art of channeling with having spirits communicate through them or through a person. I don't know if I do a lot of that aspect in my mediumship, so I wouldn't call myself a channeler. I hardly even call myself a medium. I'm pretty private about those
It's the
things. I
same
just want
thing.
to talk about my abilities, but
There's
I
no
don't.
difference, just a different word. I mean, there people are channeling aliens. They're from Zeta Reticuli and things like that. They don't claim to be dead. They claim to be aliens trying to bring humanity into the next world, into the next stage of evolution. Um, but they're not spirits. They're alien entities with psychic abilities that are talking to other people.
Well, we
And
shouldn't talk about Scientology publicly right now.
well, it's not just them. It's
Just kidding, Tom Cruise. I love you. Okay. Okay, well, let's get into a little bit of some things too. I know Stacy will like some of this too. You guys should like some of this. Let's talk a little bit about like chakra and the third eye, things like that. So a little bit of spiritual body stuff. So, who wants to tackle what a chakra is and or third eye? Looking at you, Stacy,
okay. I can do it. I was waiting for other
because
people
you
because
always talk about that. So,
I didn't want to dominate the whole thing.
oh, you're not.
Um, okay. No, a chakra is basically a port of concentration of your aura, your electromagnetic field. Just like the Earth has an electromagnetic field, it also has a chakra, and it actually has two, has the North Pole and the South Pole, and these swirling energy bands, exist throughout the human body, and there are a lot of them, but there are seven major ones, and the ones that people mostly know are the third eye, which is not just in the front; it's in the back. It's literally like a north and south pole on the front of your body and on the back of your body, where these chakra points are at. You have a heart chakra, you have a throat chakra, you have chakras in the palms of your hands, you have one in your abdomen, you have one in your groin that goes to the top of your head, and you have them on your feet. These are energy centers that not only regulate your overall uh, well-being, but your health as well. Um, People who can see auras and see the chakras and what they're doing can often determine whether or not somebody's developing a disease like cancer or liver disease or heart disease, different things like that, because the chakra is not swirling not only in the right direction but in the right spot or completely. Because you can have chakras that are basically like a broken wagon wheel. They're spinning, but there's half of it is gone or a third of it is gone, and it's just spinning. And you can see that it's not really a whole, spinning energy ball. It's broken, and that's an early indicator that there's a disease that is starting to take hold. And you can, if you're in Reiki and different other kinds of things, start to heal those diseases before they manifest by fixing the chakra points. As far as the third eye is concerned, that's a lot of where the information that you get comes from, and it's a physical thing. You have in your brain, in the middle of your brain, there's what they call a pineal gland. It's spelled like pine cone, not the other thing, but it that's what it looks like. It looks like a mini pine cone, and it is literally an eyeball that is in the middle of your brain. It has rods and cones. It has the same liquid that your eyeball has, and it has no medical use as far as doctors are concerned. Beyond that's what they use to determine that's the center. That's ground zero for the center of your brain. And when they do MRIs and things of that kind, they look for that pineal gland to determine whether or not your brain is shifting from side to side or swelling or doing weird things, because they can measure from that 0 point where exactly your brain is supposed to be and what's supposed to be doing as far as development is concerned, as far as size and growth and things of that kind. And if you've got a tumor someplace else, it's going to be off center. It's pushing that pineal gland off to the side. Beyond that, science has no reason, it has no understanding of why that thing is there. But it's an eyeball. It quite literally is an eyeball in the middle of your brain. And that third eye is where, when you can visualize things, is actually where it develops and where you can see it. It's not in the juicy parts up here. It's in that very center. You develop a picture in your mind. You see it in that third eye. And it's quite remarkable if you think about it. But it was there before the people who were doing science realized it was there, and the mystics from long, long ago knew that you had a third eye long before doctors and scientists and things like that. So it's one of these things where science caught up to it, to the mystical side, but they really haven't gotten all the way there yet because they don't have any empirical evidence to say one way or another. But it's a thing. It's a real thing.
No, I'm glad you clarified that for sure, because I know a lot of people talk about the third eye, and sometimes they look at it more of a concept versus a physical type thing. And I guess it, seeing that science can't prove the function of the pineal gland, it's like, well, it's kind of both, right? It's kind of the concept and science.
Well, they've also determined that over age, you can calcify that eye. You can, like cataracts in your normal eye, you can get a cataract essentially in that third eye. It's a calcification. And it usually happens when you take in a lot of chemicals through, like, soft drinks, Diet Cokes, things of that kind. The aspartame will start to calcify the inside of that eye, and your ability to actually visualize things diminishes. It's crazy that people, as they get older, they can't understand certain things. They can't just visualize the next pattern in something. It's because the third eye becomes, and you can see it in the MRIs. It turns really, really bright because it's got all this calcium on the inside. You can get rid of that over time by just taking in apple cider vinegar. Take 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar every day for a month, and that will start to remove itself out of it, and you'll start to actually see things like you used to, as far as like visualization is concerned. It's really kind of crazy, but it works.
Okay. Okay, so we've pretty much covered a lot we spent a lot of the hour talking about psychic medium, trying to clarify that. Is there any terms that you guys can think of that we hadn't quite hit on, as far as terms goes of abilities? Because if not, we are going to kind of get in a little bit of the spiritual cleansing terms.
Well, psychometry, we didn't talk about that at all. Psychometry is part of the whole, oh God, I blanked out. The Clara sense, where you're feeling things. Psychometry is the new term for that. It's more of a clinical psychology term than it is the old, Victorian era stuff. And by the way, you can actually, if you get the Book of Mediums by Alan Kardec, it was written in the early or the late 19th century. He was a scientist who became a medium and wrote books talking to mediums in seances and stuff. His book is incredibly informative and incredibly dry because he's a scientist. He wasn't trying to pump up. As a matter of fact, he actually went to jail after writing the book because what he was writing about was illegal in England at the time. So he went to jail for writing the book, and it became really, really popular. It is actually the number 2 bestseller still, after the book of after Nostradamus in Latin America. It is huge in Latin America, the Book of Mediums. Anyway, psychometry is the ability to pick up information off of objects that have the energy or information of whoever touched it last or the most traumatic event at that particular item, which can be dirt. I mean, if somebody who's a good at psychometry, they can pick up dirt on the battlefields of Gettysburg and get full pictures of what was going on, sounds. Basically, like watching a movie. They can pick up all the information that was in that particular spot just by touching it. Keep car
Yeah.
keys, things of that kind too.
And they actually demonstrated that in Star Wars Force Awakens.
Yeah,
So anybody sees which I don't recommend anybody watch the sequel
I
movies,
did not watch it.
but in Force Awakens, one of the Force abilities that Ray Palpatine has is she can use psychometry. Through the Force, she can touch a lightsaber, she can touch an object, and then have visions of the past and things like that, like the some of the major events connected to that object.
Stephen
So
King's book, The Dead Zone, did the same thing. The TV show and the movie also about the whole idea of, he did it through a brain injury in the book, but that's essentially what it's based on is the psychometry. This psychic who could touch things and essentially transport himself to that particular moment that something was going on just by, touching the object. That was, it illustrates it quite well in the TV show with Michael Hall. Uh, that it only had like 2 seasons to it, but I loved it. It was awesome.
yeah, no, that's good though. I guess we could probably skip the cleansing stuff because we are getting toward the end of the time, and we'll just get into some more, a few other definitions similar to that. Um,
Hey, Doug,
so
hold on one second, because I want to say something about the clairs, right? Because a lot of people are asking about them. They're trying to understand how to develop their abilities and things like that. So I'm going to give a little bit of a word of caution. Um, I know many of us, we've talked about it before, have at one point or another been like, I need more patience. I need more patience. We've prayed for patience, right? And then we get patience by being put through a series of trials that that force us to have more patience, right? And when it comes to abilities, like for a long time, the only Claire I did not have was the taste one. And I was like, I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want to taste something nasty and just start like puking in a museum. Like I don't want to do that. Or a residential case. Like, thank you, but no, I don't need to taste it. Right? Goodness gracious, the puppy is deciding to make her bed. Um, and I was like, I'm just not going to have it. So then people started asking me, like, well, what Clairs do you have? And I'm like, all of them except taste, and I don't want it.
Mm.
Well, guess how many times I said that before I got it, right? So just a word of caution: if you want to learn about abilities, fine, just do it slow. If you're like, I'm not ready for that, I don't want it, don't talk about it, because you'll make it happen. Right? The more you talk about
Well,
it, the more it'll happen.
I think it's awesome. I mean, it may not seem like it's a psychic ability, but the whole idea of being able to taste, people can taste the difference between restaurant food and home cooked food. And it's not the ingredients that does it, it's the love. You can taste the love in baked goods that are homemade as opposed to something that's made on a factory floor. And it really has nothing to do with the ingredients. It has everything to do with the work that goes into it. The person who loves what they're doing and loves to bake and loves to make their favorite treat, you can taste that and you feel it. It is soul food is what they call it because you can taste the difference. And that is completely 100% a psychic thing. You cannot define it as something that is done with ingredients or done with style or anything of the kind. It is something that it goes into the food and you can taste it. And that in and of itself is a psychic ability. The whole idea of being able to taste that emotion, that love.
Yes, the
yeah,
downside of that though is you can't always control what you're tasting, you know. So
Well, at the same time, if you're at a bake sale, you can taste who's the insufferable cunt and who's the actual good person at that particular event. Um,
Mhm.
it comes through in whatever the brownies may be made exactly the same, but you can tell this one tastes like shit because the person who made it is for shit. It's really that simple.
Well, this is not a I licked it so it's mine situation. So we're not going to go around licking paranormal members, team members. I mean, it would be a good litmus test, but no, let's not.
That's what I did. All right. So, all right. We should define remote viewing. Um, so perceiving targets, unseen targets by using psychic abilities.
Well, the official definition from the United States government is being able to target a remote location, a person, place, thing, or event anywhere in space time. That's the official definition right there.
Using psychic abilities.
Yeah, well,
I mean, technically, right?
they don't
It's,
even like to use the word psychic.
psychic abilities are anything beyond the normal senses. So,
you use the normal senses in order to determine it. So there's nothing outside because your brain is acclimated to this body. So your normal senses is the informational input that your brain is actually acclimated to. It uses those inputs in order to determine what is what in a particular target. And it's done in piecemeal. The whole process and the protocols is the initial impression that you get. That first 3 seconds that you get on any particular thing is real information. You go beyond 3 seconds, you walk into a room and you start to feel something immediately. That first 3 seconds is real data. You start to sit there and ponder it and start to think about it. What am I hearing and what am I feeling? And all this, your brain will start to invent things. That's called analytical overlay, or AOL. And its imagination is kicking in. Remote viewing, the protocols reset that first 3 seconds over and over and over again for anywhere from half an hour to 60 minutes. And at the end, you put it all together in a protocol, but it's like a giant jigsaw puzzle at the end, and you form a picture of what is actually the target. And you use it using nothing but descriptors, no nouns, adjectives only. And by doing so, you can actually expand your understanding of what is actually taking place. You're not remote viewing dirt. You're remote viewing something earthy, that kind of thing. Because dirt is a noun. You're describing what it is that you're sensing based off of your knowledge base. And your knowledge base being something is maybe dirt, but dirt is earthy. Mold is earthy. Different smells can be earthy. You don't know exactly what you're dealing with because you may be targeting in remote viewing the surface of Mars. And if you're on the surface of Mars, you're not on Earth, but you can still have the same smells as what you might have on Earth. So you put them in the perspective of what you understand in your personal experience database on the page in a descriptive way, in an adjectives way. And at the end, you can determine from your blind target what it really is. And it comes out, 80% of the way as being true just by virtue of the protocols.
Using psychic abilities.
Well,
look, the reason why I say that, Stacy, is because it's to normal people, remote viewing is paranormal. Okay. Yeah. And it's not normal. So therefore it falls under psychic abilities because that's beyond normal senses. Now, we in the paranormal world, we might view remote viewing as normal. We normalize a lot of things. It's not always paranormal to us. There's a lot of things that are normal. But in the world of definitions, that's why I just give you a hard time, and I just wanted to get you going.
Well, according to the government, it's not paranormal.
Well, but I think what Josh I agree with what Josh is saying to a certain extent, but I think what Stacy's talking about too is true, right? Anybody can learn remote viewing through this
Mhm.
process, right? But we've been talking about it tonight. Anybody can learn how to utilize and open up and use effectively a number of different psychic abilities, right?
Right.
Because we already have what's needed. We just don't know how to use it,
Mhm.
right? Some people are born with it. They're more adept to doing it. They learn it through natural processes rather than being older and having to like go back and try to figure it out. They develop it at a younger age because their brains function a little bit differently. Their perception's a little bit different. Their experience level is a little bit different, right? And like Sean was even saying with seers, they're born with it, but there are also others that can learn to hear, learn to see, learn to do all these things. So everything that we're talking about, they're considered paranormal, they're considered psychic, but at the end of the day, it's things that we already possess. We just don't know how to use them, right?
Right.
And
Mhm.
now that it's less taboo, now people are starting to go, "Hey, I want to learn. Hey, I think this is cool," and it's all kind of getting lumped into paranormal, right?
Right. Well,
Because
again,
it's
that's
not
where.
mainstream medicine, it's not mainstream psychology, it's not, they don't even teach this stuff in school anymore like they used to. I took classes in high school about a lot of basic psychology, and they don't teach it in high school anymore. It's very rare to find somebody that learned it. And
They don't teach
so,
cursive
well, it's become
anymore.
less taboo. The skills aren't there. The knowledge isn't there. The knowledge base isn't there. How do you find somebody that can teach you this stuff? And then you're stuck looking at media to try to find out the right way or the wrong way or the best way, or and there's a lot of division too, because like if you ask half the paranormal field, right, remote viewing is a psychic ability only. Well, then you've got Stacy and that school of thought where anybody can learn it.
Mhm.
Well, it's not a division. There's no question about it. It's not just a psychic thing. And if you want to look at the definition of psychic, it's the same thing. So this whole division, this whole idea that it's we're talking about two different things is just not true.
Right. Well, and that's why I said it. All of this stuff falls under psychic abilities, right? It's just what do you want to learn for those things? You want to learn remote viewing, you can learn this way. You want to learn, this, whatever. So psychic abilities covers a lot. It's a general overall term using again perception of things that you perceive beyond the normal senses. That's all it is. So yeah, so folks, we're gonna start wrapping things up here. If you guys, any of the panel members, have any last minute things they want to throw out there, um, but I just wanted to say that I hope you guys enjoyed these definitions. If you guys have any other stuff, we have a lot of other things we can get into as well. We have a lot of shows coming up, guys, of all kinds of topics. So, again, if there's a topic that you guys need us to get into, reach out. The definitions has been a popular subject. I know Jen was telling me she was getting messages, people wanting to know clarification on different terms and things. So that's why we spent the last few shows talking about some of these terms and how we use them in the industry and what they mean. Sometimes we debate a little bit, have fun, but ultimately, I think you guys get the gist of it, and you understand what we mean by these things. And if not, if you need more clarification, you can always reach out to us. We're always happy to address that with you. But guys, thank you so much. If you haven't, smash that like button, guys. And of course, commenting always engages things with us. So always ask questions. Thank you to all the guys and the regular gals that showed up. So if you have any other things, guys, next week,
I do
right?
have one thing I'd like to say, right? We've talked about, labels, titles, definitions, things like that tonight. So I just want to relay to everybody, like, it's okay if you don't know what you are or where you're at in your journey or where the titles fit you. Like, I'm just excited that people are on this journey and they're learning about themselves, they're learning about their purpose, they're learning about what they can and can't do. They're discovering and growing, right? Don't worry about the labels, don't worry about the terms, just be you and enjoy the journey is all I can say, because it's the best when you start doing it.
Awesome. Well, we will see you all next week. You guys tune in. See ya.
Peace.
Right.